Hey, it's Coach Jeremy here with Red Hawk Coaching and the SOAR community. And I got Chris Grum here with Premier Custom Travel. He's one of the experts in this group, and he's also my personal travel agent and friend. And so, Chris, welcome today.
Thanks, Jeremy. It's always fun chatting with you.
I'm excited about today because we're going to talk about one of my favorite places to travel to. And I've only been there once, but it's one of those bucket list trips. And it's one of those, once you go there, you're trying to figure out how to get back. So we're going to talk about Alaska today. And then we're also going to talk about customer service. And I want you to share some of the things that you're doing in your business to provide that. And I think it's important because there's not a lot of conversations around customer service these days. So let's jump into Alaska. Chris, why
Okay.
do people need to go there?
Well, I mean, as you've said, you've been once. I have been twice, and I can solve your having only gone once dilemma because I'm hosting another trip next summer in July of 2022, going back for my third trip. And I mean, we don't have enough time to talk about the reasons you should go. But the short list is it is one of the most beautiful places that you will ever visit. Um, it's probably on almost everyone's bucket list. And it's a place that no matter how many times you go, you can find something new to do. You cannot scratch the surface of all that there is to do with one, two, perhaps even three trips. And I'll be totally honest with you, if I had the funds and the time, I would go every summer for a couple of reasons. Number one, there's so much to do. But number two, because the weather is so much nicer in Alaska in July than it is in Houston, Texas.
Oh, I can attest to that.
And it's funny. When I have customers that come to me, and let's just say they're regular cruisers, and they've done all the cruises out of Galveston, they may have done them all out of Miami or out of Florida, and they'll say, "What should I do next?" And Alaska is almost always my first answer. And it's funny because I get a lot of pushback from people who say, "Oh, no, 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 it's going to be too cold. I don't know that I can handle that." And it's not 40 degrees below where you need the giant hooded parka and all that. The weather there, anywhere from 50s to the 70s during the day. But it's a lot better than 100-degree heat that we have in Houston. And I will tell you, as much as I love the state of Texas, I think the views are much better in Alaska.
Yeah, I remember going up there. I was thinking, we were prepared for the cold weather. We had all the cold weather gear. And what I loved about it was, of course, on Carnival, you can get alcohol at all times of the day. And they served my favorite Mexican coffee in the morning. So I'd walk right out. You'd placed us right on the Lido deck. So I literally walked 10 feet out to the bar, got our Mexican coffees, went back to the patio or the balcony, and we had blankets there. They had blankets you could pick up. And we sat there outside for the entire day as they were narrating, especially when we got into Glacier Bay, they were
Oh, yeah.
narrating that trip. And I never was really that cold. I think the coldest it might have been was low to mid 50s.
Hmm.
It might have gotten a little colder than that at night. During the day, high 60s, 70s. There were people swimming in the pool, which I thought was absolutely nuts. But there's people still swimming in the pool. So
Oh, yeah.
they're probably European or something. I'm not sure.
Could be. And the thing about Alaska is really the temperature is not what gets you, it's the wind.
Mhm.
Because certainly in certain places, you mentioned in the evening, if you go out on deck at night when the ship is going from port to port, it tends to be a little bit cooler. If you go up on the glaciers, one of the bucket list, and I mean, talk about how many things does this check off? One of the excursions that I've done once and am doing again next year is a helicopter ride where you land on a glacier and go dog sledding. I mean, check, 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 check. It gets a little bit breezy up on top of the glacier. If you go whale watching, you're out in the middle of the open water, and it tends to get a little bit more breezy. But honestly, Alaska is a place of layers. You don't need the giant heavy coat. You just need several layers because it literally can go from 70 to 50, kind of like that.
Yeah. We left out of Portland or out of Seattle, not Portland.
Yeah,
Uh,
so did I.
Out of Seattle, and there was an option to go out of San Francisco. We just didn't have time. Seattle was neat to go out of, and then we went up to Glacier Bay, and then turned around and came back. Made a stop there briefly in Canada. If you had a favorite route to pick for the Alaska cruise, what would that be?
Well, it really depends on how much time you have, because there's two different ways you can do Alaska if we're talking strictly cruises. There's a round trip cruise or a one-way cruise, but typically 7 nights. And on that, you'll be on the ship for 7 nights, and you'll see Juneau, probably Ketchikan, maybe Glacier Bay, maybe Sitka, but it's going to be a cruise-only experience. There are also what are called cruise tours, and basically what those are is a land and sea combo. The cruise will likely still be 7 nights, but you can add up to an additional 7 nights where you visit Denali National Park. You do one of the other things that most people that visit Alaska want to do, and that's ride the Yukon Railway, usually from Denali National Park or Talkeetna down to your ship. And so ultimately that could wind up being a 14-day vacation. Some people just don't have the time for that. But I would say that if you have the time, maybe 6 nights as a land package, and then the 7 nights on the cruise would be my first recommendation. If you're going cruise only, then I would certainly recommend that you can go out of Vancouver, you can go out of Seattle. Really the only difference there is that if you go out of Seattle, you're going to go 1 night to Canada because by law they have to visit a foreign port. But then as far as itineraries go, I would say number 1, make sure Glacier Bay is on your itinerary, because for me, the 2 times that I've done Alaska, Glacier Bay was one of my absolute favorite places that I've visited anywhere on the planet. And as you mentioned, you need a balcony in Alaska because you will get a blanket and you will go out on your balcony and you arrive in Glacier Bay maybe 7:30 in the morning. You have the park rangers on board narrating the entire day, and you have the most spectacular view from your balcony all day long. And I think both times I literally sat out there the entire time, and the only time we stopped was to go get an adult beverage or maybe grab a little lunch. But Glacier Bay would be a must-do. The itinerary that I am going on next summer, we picked specifically because it also goes to Sitka. And Sitka's a port where I think it'll start to get a lot more popular now that they built a dock there. It used to be a port where you had to tender, meaning you had to take the water taxis back and forth. And the problem with that was it's an added expense. It takes more time. A lot of cruise lines don't want to mess with it. So they would go to Skagway or Icy Strait Point instead. But Sitka is an old colonial Russian village. They have an onion dome church in the middle of town. They have the Alaskan Raptor Rescue Center, which a Red Hawk coaching guy ought to go see. Go. Yeah. But you can see bald eagles 5 feet away from you. And that is such an amazing experience. And so I would say if you can get all of those on one itinerary, that would be the direction that I would go.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite was, I had this list of animals I wanted to see, and the bald eagle, and you warned me, you're like, they're like pigeons, and they really are. They're everywhere.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to see a bear. We didn't see a bear, and I wanted to see whales. And we took a private excursion. It was just the boat captain, and it was a family of 3, and then Lori and I, and a little small boat. So we were going out middle of the bay, and the whales would come up within 5-10 feet of the boat, and we actually got to see 2 or 3 of them feed together, which was amazing. And then the killer whales, I know they don't call them killer whales there.
The orcas, yeah.
The orcas. If I want to be politically correct, we saw a pod of those.
Don't start now, Jeremy.
I know. We saw a pod of those and the calves, going along with it. And it was just, it was, you go to SeaWorld and you see them and you don't realize until you're up close and seeing them in the wild, just how big and powerful they are. And so, some pretty neat things to show. And I've got a few pictures. So I mentioned I was going to share a few of these. And let's see. So that, talking about sitting on the porch, that was me on the porch. I was probably a little overdressed there.
Still better than some people on formal night.
Yes. So the Aleutian ballad, I can't remember which port this was in, but it was on the Deadliest Catch.
Yeah, I believe that's Ketchikan.
It was Ketchikan. And so they took the ship. It was in season 2 of the Deadliest Catch, where it went over one of those 50, 60-foot rogue waves, flipped over. Everybody was saved in that. Nobody passed. They came back out the next day thinking they were going to find the ship either just gone or on its side, and it had uprighted itself in the storm. And so they took it and turned it to a museum, and they took you around the bay and kind of gave you some really cool experiences where you got to hold crabs. And that's some of the actual people from that ship that they do the tours. And then, let's see, that guy actually played for the Beach Boys. I can't remember his name, but he was the music talent. We were on the, I think, was it the Ruby Princess? Is that the one that was up there at the time?
It might have been, yeah.
And I have to say that for the cruise ship, the entertainment I thought was actually spectacular for that ship. Great musicians. That's
Yeah,
us
I
with the
think
captain.
yeah, I think Princess has some of the best entertainment at sea by far.
I was going to try to find the one with the bald eagles because that was pretty impressive. Oh, here we go.
Oh yeah.
So you can see we're feeding them herring. They're cutting up herring and throwing them out to the bald eagles. And this was on that tour with the deadliest catch. Chris, when we came around this corner into this bay, you would look up into the tree and it looked like golf balls. There was just all these white heads. And when
Hmm.
they started throwing the fish, they knew what was coming.
Yeah.
And there must have been 50, 60 of them. There'd be like 5, 10 feet above your head. And just amazing to watch. Something you just never think you would see. And that's
Well,
what
and
Alaska is.
yeah, and when I was a kid, the bald eagle was endangered, and they thought within 10 to 15 years it would be extinct. And now it's protected, so you can't hunt it, which I think is a good thing for our national symbol. But they are literally, as you said, everywhere. I don't think you can drive down a street in Alaska and not every power pole there's a bald eagle. It seems like on top of them.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere. And you can see here's some of the wells that were breaching. I mean, they were so close to us, right out in the
Yeah.
middle of the bay. And you could hear them when they would shoot the water up into the air. You could hear it all the way across the bay. It was just some of the most amazing scenery that you could see out
I
there.
mean, just look at that view right there. Yeah.
That glacier,
Hmm.
absolutely beautiful. There's one of the orcas. They're surfacing there. Just beautiful. Everything looks untouched. I highly recommend, if you're looking to have an experience that you just won't forget, Alaska is it.
It is, and it's like I said, it's something that I think once you get over the idea of yes, it's going to be a little cooler than it is in Houston. You're going to see amazing wildlife. You're going to see, and I'm glad to hear, Jeremy, I'm not the only person that's never seen a bear in Alaska because I really thought I was the only one, and now I know somebody else. But you will see whales. I don't know of a whale watching trip. I have sold a ton of Alaska. I have never had a customer tell me they didn't see whales. And typically on those tours, if you don't see whales, they'll give you some of your money back. But they're so plentiful. You'll see bald eagles for sure. You will most likely see bears, and occasionally, especially if you do the Denali add-on, you will see the moose as well. And those are the big ones that everybody wants to see up in Alaska. Another thing that we saw a lot of on our whale watching trip was the harbor seals. They are everywhere. And I don't know how they do it, but they climb up on those buoys and they kind of play king of the mountain on the buoys. And that's a lot of fun to watch as well. And then as you saw in your photos, just the vistas that you see are absolutely incredible. I did a scenic flight tour on a float plane. I'm a bit of a plane geek. I love airplanes. And so I got, for the first time ever in Alaska, to take off on the water, fly up into the mountains. We landed on this pristine lake, and then the pilot let us get out and stand on the skids of the airplane. And here you are standing in this breathtaking area, and then kind of like little gnats, here comes another seaplane over here and another seaplane over here, and you're just in this magnificent space where these planes land and you're just all taking in the view. It is absolutely stellar. You can also go to sled dog camps. You can visit the mushing dogs. Princess, who you sailed with, Princess has a deal where they bring. I may get her name wrong. Libby Stevens, I believe, is her name. But she was the first woman to win the Iditarod. And she comes on board every Princess ship, goes to the atrium, and brings some of her dogs with her. And you can take photos and ask her questions about what's it like to do that Iditarod race. And so there's always something special in Alaska. And that's why I absolutely love it. And I am counting down the days until I go back next July.
Yeah, I'm jealous. We may have to figure this out here.
We'll figure it out one way or another, Jeremy, because we have been talking forever about sailing together, and I don't know how it hasn't happened yet, but it would be a spectacular place to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those, one of the reasons we've hired you for or used you for many of cruises, and one of the things I really appreciate about your company, you and Scott, is when we decided to do Alaska, y'all actually came out and met with us. I mean, it was a big investment, yet y'all took the time to go through and say, okay, here's the things that you want to do. Here's the things that you could do, because you really have to, with one of those type of trips, you have a finite amount of time. And so you've really got to decide what are those things that I want to do. And then you get there and you realize, okay, I've got to come back.
That's the worst part of every vacation.
Well, great. Well, we'll talk about more how to contact you towards the end. I want to
Okay.
jump in though, as a business owner. I know we've had several conversations about this offline and in social media posts is customer service. And it's just one of those things that it never really gets talked about anymore.
Mhm.
And it's really been lacking, I think, across the board. I mean, I just think of some of the experiences I've had here recently with just not getting a return call or not getting a thank you or,
Mhm.
you know, all these different things that 10 to 15 years ago was expected, or that business wouldn't be doing business with anybody. Now the opposite is, it's just the expectation is it's just not going to be great. Tell me your thoughts on what customer service looks like in your business. Where do you think customer service overall in general is in today's world?
Well, I'll start with the second question first, and I agree with you. I think that in a general sense, customer service is severely lacking to the point where I feel like with most people, if they get average service, they feel like they're getting something special these days. And unfortunately, that's the metric we're judging things by. When we started this company, it came out of a love of travel. So it's very easy for us to love what we do. So that makes it a little bit easier. But I think that what we strive to do every day is to first and foremost, be honest with the customer. Mistakes are going to happen. I don't know everything. I am a travel expert, and I will say that proudly, but I don't know everything. But what I will do is say to you, Jeremy, that I don't know, but I'll get you an answer. And there is a very famous theme park company. I'm not going to name Disney, but they teach their employees to never, ever, ever say, I don't know. It is just a big negative to them. And I understand the concept behind that. But what I have found personally in my business is that if I say I don't know to a customer, and then I tell them I will get you the answer, they are grateful that I, number one, didn't just make up an answer to give them something immediately. And number two, that I'm going to take the time to get them that answer. And then I look at it from the point of view of I'm going to learn something new, and it will help me grow my business. But I think, you mentioned returning phone calls and emails. I can't tell you how often we have had a new customer come to us and they will say, you were not the first company that I called, but you're the first one to call us back. You're the first person to acknowledge me. And we pride ourselves in, if you call or email us, we will return your call or email very quickly, usually within a few minutes to a couple of hours. We don't make you sit for 3 or 4 days waiting for us to return the call. The only time you won't hear from me is if for some reason your voicemail is distorted and I can't hear your phone number, or if your email gets rerouted to a mailbox that I don't know about, but we don't even have our spam filters on for that very reason. I don't want to miss a communication with a customer. And then I also think the other thing that we do is we do what we say we're going to do, and we do it in a timely manner. And I'm a big Star Trek fan, and the old joke with Scotty was, he was the miracle worker. And there was an episode, and I don't remember when it was, but he basically told the captain, you ask me something I need to do, and I figure out how long it'll take, and I double it. So then I look great afterwards. And what I have found is, and we saw this during Hurricane Harvey, there were 2 different cruise lines that were canceled out of Galveston. One of them kept saying, we're going to provide updates at a certain time, and they would have provided them by then or earlier. The other one kept saying, we're going to provide updates by a certain time, and they would continually miss the mark. And my question to them was, why make that promise if you know you're not going to keep it? And I think that I would rather tell a customer, and I'll give you an example, Jeremy. Customers sometimes will ask me, we're going to Walt Disney World and we need adjoining rooms, or we need rooms next door to each other. There is not a hotel in the world, I shouldn't say that, there's very few hotels in the world that will guarantee that up front. Most hotels, that is an on request, and they go out of their way to tell you, we don't guarantee this. Now, I will say Walt Disney's great about making it happen 99% of the time, but I would rather tell a customer, this is what may happen, then promise them something, and they get there and they're upset because of it. And what I have found is that probably 95% or more of the issues that people experience when they travel can be offset by a conversation before the trip. and you've cruised yourself. One of the stories that I always tell first-time cruisers is I say, when you get on the ship and you go to dinner the first night, if your dinner's at 6 o'clock, you're going to show up at 5:55 and there's going to be a massive line. And if nobody told you the story I'm about to tell you, you would go, oh my God, I'm never going to eat. And you would be mad at your travel agent, or you would be upset with the cruise line. You'd say, I'm never doing this vacation again. And you would go upstairs to the buffet, or you'd order room service, not realizing that when that door opens at 6 o'clock, there's 100 waiters, and they're going to take you to your table, and that line will be gone literally in 5 minutes. And then on night 2, you know where your table is, there won't be a line. And that's one of those stories that I tell new cruisers, just so they understand how things work, and that offsets any potential problem that they might see with how that system works. And I think that that's a lot of what's missing in customer service today, is the detail-oriented, caring about what you're doing with the customer. And another thing I'll throw out real quickly is the passing the buck. I can't stand that. And it aggravates me to no end when you have an issue and instead of whoever you address it with saying, let me get this solved, they pass it down and pass it off and then never follow up on it. And, I just feel like somebody ought to take the reins and say, hey, this may not be my department, but I will send an email off and I will respond to you when it's solved. And, that's part of what I do every day is help customers solve an issue with a reservation. They've decided to do this, or they need to do this, or with COVID, they need a refund, or they need a credit. We deal with that all day, but I don't ever tell the customer, you need to go off and do this on your own. We take care of all of it and then come back and say, we have solved it and here's the resolution. And I think a lot of that's missing in today's market, no matter where you are, travel or otherwise.
Yeah, I was dealing with a pest control company. We fired them. I'm not going to mention the name, but Adaptive, they had just so I'm not going to go into the story of all the things that happened, yet I came to the decision I was going to let them go. And so I called and then I talked to one person, gave them the story, and they were like, oh, I'm really sorry about that. We're going to pass you to this department. Then I got to that department and they were like, okay, well, tell us what happened, Mr. Williams. I'm like, so I go through the whole story again. It took me 10, 15 minutes to tell the story. And then they're like, oh, we're so sorry. But, in order to discontinue service, you've got to be in this department. So I went there and they're like, okay, can you share with us what happened? And I was just like, why couldn't the first person take that, pass the notes along, and then you're done? Mm-hmm. And, I think the passing the buck's huge. I think, expectation setting is what I heard earlier. You didn't say it, but setting the expectations.
Yes.
This is what could happen is important. That's in any business. I coach real estate agents, and it's like, if you set the expectations, if something does come up, you could always say, remember that conversation. You could go back to that. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you hadn't set the expectations, then it's your fault. I think that's huge. What about like simple things like just thank yous? I think that's a big thing. And I know you always thank me for the business and that I think there's something to that. Where has that gone in our world?
I'm not sure where it's gone, but it's something, I will tell you that I am grateful for every single booking that we get. And I've actually had customers that have come to me and said, we were going to book a 4-night Carnival cruise and I don't want to waste your time on something that small. Well, it's not small to me because, number one, any money in the till right now, especially with what's going on in the world, is a big deal. But what that customer doesn't realize is I'm also judged by the cruise lines on how much I sell. And next year's commission amount may go up or down by that one cabin that you thought wasn't worth my time. And so that's why I'm so grateful for every customer, every single dollar that comes into Premier Custom Travel, every referral. It's genuine. It really, truly is. And I think that that is something that, once again, like customer service, is lacking. I can't tell you how often I will go into a business and they just don't seem to want your business or be grateful for it. And I think one of the few good things that will come out of this pandemic is we are learning, and I've certainly learned in the travel business, who I want to work with going forward. Because there have been companies that cared and worked hard. And I'll take one outside of travel. HEB has gone out of their way to, and when a storm comes to town, when the pandemic was going on, they have, in my opinion, gone out of their way to take care of the communities around them. And that speaks volumes to me. Look at Mattress Mac. I mean, opening up his stores for people from Louisiana affected by yet another hurricane. He doesn't have to do that. The man is literally everywhere. Everybody knows where Gallery Furniture is. He could stop advertising tomorrow, but he doesn't. And if you go on his Facebook, I don't know if it's really him or if it's somebody that works for him, but they answer every single post that's on there. Every single person is thanked for taking the time to comment.
It's actually it is Jim.
And it may very well be. I mean, I'll tell you, this is kind of off subject, but I'll give you a quick Mattress Mac story from my radio days. He advertised, I am not kidding you, literally every hour of every day on our radio station, there was a Gallery Furniture commercial. And we would have him on for various causes. And the Richmond Little League outside of Sugar Land was going to the Little League World Series. This is 10, 15 years ago. And not all the parents could make the trip. And so one of the parents called our morning show. They were big fans of the Hudson and Harrigan show. And they said, is there anything you guys can do to help us set up a watch party so that the parents who couldn't go can watch the kids? Because we don't have, at our clubhouse, we don't have cable TV, da-da-da-da-da-da. So I got the idea as the producer of the show, and I called Mattress Mac, and I said, Jim, listen, we have this little league, and I explained the story. Is there a way that you could use one of your trucks to take one of your big screen floor displays out to their clubhouse, set up one of your DirecTV satellite dishes, and let them watch the game on it? And then, you can take your truck back, you leave it out there, and it'll be good publicity. And he said, you know what I'll do? I'll go you one better with a back order slip. No, but what he said was, I will do this. He said, I will give them for their clubhouse a big screen TV and a year of DirecTV. I'll give them a couple of couches so they can relax and enjoy it. He shipped all that out there, and we tried to put him on the radio to talk about it. And he's like, no. You can just say what we're doing. Yeah, it's marketing to a degree. But it was also something he could have easily just taken the floor model out there, let them watch the game. But they actually had one of the swankier clubhouses in all of Little League Baseball after that, because he wanted the community to be able to enjoy that local stuff. And that, to me, is, something that sadly you don't see very often. People don't have skin in the game. People, especially people that are not in an ownership role of a company, sadly, a lot of them just don't care. And they don't have any motivation to care about the product, and it shows. And it's unfortunate, because thank you and please and just basic manners that you and I were taught, I think, go a long way in business as well, and people remember that.
Yeah, and I think it is sad, yet I think it's an opportunity. And so, I look at any time, I always like to look at it and be the optimist and look to the other side of that and say, well, if everybody else is doing that, maybe I'm counterculture to that, and I go over here and do it this way. And I truly believe having that type of customer service, having that servant's heart, you brought up a great example with Mac, is you're going to attract more people to you and do more business over time than giving really crappy or average. Average is good today, and that's the sad thing. It's not hard to differentiate yourself if you have great customer service.
Well, and there's one other thing that I think is an element, at least for us, of customer service, and it's how you and I became friends, and it's how I've become friends with a lot of our customers, and that is being genuine, being who you are, for better or for worse. And, not everybody's going to like me, and not everybody's going to work with my company, no matter how good we may be. But being really who you are, and also taking the time to get to know your customers, because it does two things. Number one, it helps you plan their vacations, because you get to know what they like, what they don't like. I have certain customers that I would never recommend an Alaska trip to, because it's just not something they would be interested in. But it also grows you as a person, and you are exposed to different people and different ideas and different ways of thinking. And I think that helps us all grow. You're creating this community of different minds, because those different minds contribute to the hive and make the whole world better. And I think that that's something that, I'm grateful for the relationships that I've made through travel, but they were all through genuine ways of doing things. And I think sometimes, I actually, when I call a call center with my business, one of the first things out of my mouth when they say, hey, it's Jeremy, I'll say, well, hi, Jeremy, how's your day going? And 99 times out of 100, they're surprised that I take the time to actually ask them, because a lot of times I'm sure the calls are, I have a problem, fix this. Okay. And I had one time where I called a call center and I said, hi, whoever it was, how are you doing today? What can I do for you? Was their response. And my response back, because you know me, I can be a little snarky, was, well, gee, I'm sorry to have been polite. Let me get into this. And then their whole attitude changed because they realized that they had also been rude, and then that whole conversation changed from there on. But I think if we take the time to be genuine, to be friendly, and to learn a little bit about the other person, it just goes a long way. It's got to be transactional at some point, but that doesn't mean it has to be clinical and antiseptic and any other word you want to apply to it.
Yeah. So great customer service equals being genuine. I like that. I'm going to use that.
I think it absolutely does.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I know we talked a lot about cruises when we started out with the Alaskan cruise. Just if the audience has listened to us for this long, and I know we're dragging on, but if they did make it all the way, they're running the marathon with us, what are some of the other travel things that you do focus on? I know it's not just all cruise based.
No, and we talk about cruises a lot because that's probably 60 to 70% of our business. Certainly with Galveston so close by, it's a no-brainer. But the other things that we focus on as a company, we do theme park vacations, so Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Universal Orlando Resort, places like that. We also do the Sandals and the Beaches resorts, Sandals being couples only, Beaches being the all-inclusive resorts for anybody, families, couples, singles, whatever you'd like. We also work with a company called Globus, and we do guided and independent tours around the world. So whether you want to be with a group of people and a tour guide, or you want a set schedule but you're doing the sightseeing on your own, we have both of those options available. And so those are the primary things that we do as a company. And by the way, Jeremy, we talk customer service. One more thing that I would add is what we do and don't do. There are times that a customer will come to me looking for a ski vacation, for example. That is not something that we do. We're not experts in that field. And I will tell them that, I am not going to do that because it is not something that is part of our portfolio, if you will. If you want a Honda, you go to a Honda dealership. You want a Toyota, you go to a Toyota dealership. We sell very specific brands, and that is what our wheelhouse is, and we are very good at those brands. But I'm also not afraid to tell a customer, I'm sorry, that is just not something we sell. I would be delighted to help you down the road. And I think sometimes, unfortunately, there are other companies that will, and I'm not just talking travel, that will try to be the expert in everything and try to sell everything, and they, the master of all trades, or jack of all trades, master of none, and that's unfortunately what happens. And so I'd rather focus on a few specific areas that we know we're good at and we can deliver quality product. So those are the areas we work in, and I would be delighted to help anybody with a future vacation. And the important thing to understand about us, it doesn't cost you anything to work with me. You pay the exact same price you would pay doing it yourself, and sometimes you pay less.
Yeah. So, Chris, I appreciate the time today, and guys, if you're listening to this, and as a coach, for those that I do coach, for those that I don't coach and may just tune in, is that I'm really big about, if you're going to have a big life, you've got to work hard. Yet you also got to go play hard too. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways to do that is to go take a vacation. And if you're looking for somebody that is a true expert in his particular portfolio, if you don't know what that is, call him too. He'll let you know. Mm-hmm. Reach out to Chris. Chris is going to help you create not only just some time to get away, refresh, reflect. He's also going to create, in our case, and for our family, is memories with our kids, that we still talk about to this day, that they remember. Some of the ones they don't remember, we get kind of pissed off because we're like, man, we paid a whole lot of that. But it's their age. We're creating memories with them. And I encourage you, if you're looking to travel, reach out to Chris today. Chris,
I appreciate that, Jeremy.
What's the best way to get a hold of you?
The best way to get a hold of me, there's several. You can certainly call our office number, 281-301-5818. We were happy to talk on the phone. There's people these days that don't want to get on the phone. We're happy to do it. My email is chris@premiercustomtravel.com. And you can also go to our website, which oddly enough is premiercustomtravel.com. There's various ways to reach us through our website. Social media, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. We haven't quite figured out Snapchat or IHOP or whatever the other ones are called, but we're on several of those, and we're pretty regular on those. But any way that you want to communicate, we can do free consultations via Zoom, in person, or on the phone. So if you're not sure what you want, let's chat about it and let's find out what is it you're looking to get from your vacation. Because I think you said something key there, Jeremy. You want your vacation to be restful, and you want it to create memories. And I get this with Walt Disney World customers all the time, where they say, well, I'm spending all this money. We have to hit every single ride, and we have to do all this. And the first thing that I say to them is, don't worry about that. You're not going to hit every ride. There's going to be a ride that breaks down, or there's going to be a line that's too long. Make the memories. Enjoy your family. Enjoy the time. And relax, because that's what you're there for. If you go on vacation and you need a vacation after your vacation, maybe you're not quite doing it right.
Yeah, we do the Dumbo and Die plan, so I'll challenge you on that. You can do all the rides, but you are running from one end of the park to the other.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, Chris, thanks again for your time. Great information on Alaska. Great information just about customer service. Again, I appreciate you sharing some of your insight on it, because it's one of those things that don't get talked about a lot. And I think we need to talk more about it. So again, thank you, Chris.
It is my pleasure, Jeremy. Thank you as always for having me on. I appreciate you as a coach, and I appreciate you as a friend even more so. Thank you.